Good Saturday evening, everybody. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Here's your evening update for Saturday night on Tropical Storm Florence, which should become a hurricane later tonight or early on Sunday. Let's get right to the latest track. This was the 5 p.m. advisory. Not a whole lot of change. There might have been a little bit of a shift if you noticed that if you're very fine-tuned to this, maybe a little bit north. But overall, this is a continuation of the consensus track as well as just a continuation of what we've seen with the previous runs. The thing you notice, obviously, is this is where the storm could be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. And this is a key fact that I think is lost on a lot of people with this system. What is the cone? Everyone looks at that big M or the hurricane symbol. Some stations and some websites put this line track on there. That's not what the cone means, by the way. The cone means the storm could be anywhere in this cone. So it could be up here, and the hurricane force winds or tropical storm force winds could extend way out to the east, maybe a couple hundred miles. That storm could also be down here, and the tropical storm force winds could extend out to the east and even out to the west a little bit. But notice the difference. If we get a storm up here near the Outer Banks, there's little impact in Georgia and down in South Carolina, versus if we have a storm down here, the impacts up here are less. Let's say the storm goes into northern Florida, the storm impacts up here or less. That's why when people ask me, and I've been asked repeatedly, Brad, what's going to happen at XYZ position? We don't know, because we don't know where position it's going to be in here. The storm is still way out here. This is Thursday afternoon. So because I don't know exactly the location, I can't even fathom the impacts. I just know that if you live between basically southern Delaware, Maryland, all the way down to central Florida, you need to be ready for the possibility of a hurricane. And then areas all inland need to prepare as well. But as we know, the right side or the east side of the storm is more severe. So if the track is up here, then this is bad news. Down here would be nothing. But if the track then comes down here, let's say, then all of this would be in play. So that's why there's uncertainty. It's not that we don't know. It's just that you're asking about something that's 5-6 days into the future, and specifics like that aren't known. We're only at the stage now where we kind of have to know to get ready for a possible tropical system. As we get closer, there will be plenty of time to tell you what type of impacts we're going to see. Right now, we're in the planning stages. You need to have a hurricane kit ready to go. Let me show you the visible satellite image real quickly here. And it's just been watching this most of the afternoon. It's been fighting dry air. What I know about dry air is you can see those spiral bands of dry air wrapping around, but the center is very well intact. In fact, this is probably going to perk up in the next, I'd say, 24 hours. And when you look at the hurricane intensity forecast, you notice most of them are up here in the Cat 4 range. Though, curiously, there's a whole bunch down here, which I think is an issue with some of the modeling showing some dry air. So people were asking me earlier, what's the one monkey wrench that could throw this off? Dry air is something to keep an eye on. Maybe the dry air could keep it weaker than we think, but I wouldn't bet on that for a couple of reasons, and I'm going to show you why here in a minute. Here's the track guidance. Again, the one thing that happened this afternoon's runs, there was another shift back to the north, so a lot more runs are now up to the north and east. Not as many down here. There's none into Florida now. Which is a big change from just 12 hours ago. The focus is two areas. There's two little avenues. One, heading towards the Wilmington area, the North Carolina-South Carolina border, and then there's another big cluster up in this area. So in general, the track is right here right now, but this is why I said earlier in my post that I think eastern North Carolina is an area to watch, because even with this moving here, that would be bad weather for eastern North Carolina, but if the track moves up here, that would be a direct hit in eastern North Carolina. Again, depending on where the storm tracks, that would be a big impact on what we see here in western North Carolina. Any track to the east is not going to be that big of a deal for us in western North Carolina. Any track into central South Carolina up in this way becomes a much bigger issue for areas in North Carolina west of the Piedmont. Now, I know this might be hard to see, but this is basically looking at shear and sea surface temperature. So why am I so confident we're going to see this thing blow up, and why I'm kind of a little bit worried, because I know somebody is going to see a major hurricane, is the fact that right now we've got this wind shear. Those are the red lines that have been beating it up. But as the storm tracks up in this area, notice two things. The green lines are low wind shear, and the red contours below it are warm sea surface temperatures. And just to kind of back that up, you can see the storm is up here right now. It's in a relatively cool pocket right in here. but it's going to cross over much warmer water as it's moving to the north and northwest, which means the potential for some significant strengthening. In fact, rapid intensification to a Category 4 storm is likely at landfall. So again, the worrisome part about this whole system is that it is going to be a major hurricane somewhere in here. So while we may be uncertain about where it's exactly going in between that cone, we know it's going to be a major hurricane and be a big deal to somebody. So everybody from basically, I'd say, the Chesapeake Bay down to Central Florida still needs to have your hurricane plan in action. You need to have it, have your kit ready to go, and on Monday we should have some idea, as we've got hurricane hunters flying out there right now. In fact, the hurricane hunters are flying out there doing an upper air mission, which is going to be key to letting us know on how strong this ridge is, because one of the things that I'm watching is this ridge of high pressure that we're going to keep an eye on going into early next week. You can see this ridge, and I'm going to show you real quickly. This is the European model, by the way. You see this big blob of red? This is the major steering current. The high here, depending on where it's set up, is going to allow the storm either to curve this way or plow right into the Carolinas, or maybe even further south if this ridge pushes back to the west. But the hurricane hunters are going to be the key part of that. And this is a look at that upper air mission, which is going on right now as I'm recording this. The Gulfstream aircraft is actually flying out here, heading out towards Florence. And what it's doing is it's sampling the atmosphere out here, and it probably is going to do some flying up here as well to let us know what the steering currents are going on in the atmosphere around it. So a lot going on this weekend. There's time still to prepare, obviously, but the good news is recon is out there. It's giving us some better data, and I think the next couple of runs of the model, something to watch to see if there's any shifts, because one of the stats I can tell you is that dropsondes, which are the instruments they drop into the atmosphere and into these storms, improve the forecast between 10 and 15%. So that's pretty significant, especially if that's a 10 or 15% difference in the track forecast. So something to pay attention to here as we go through the weekend as we get more information. Again, remember, this is still 5 days out. Thursday at 2 p.m., it's still off the coast. The impacts start Thursday afternoon into Thursday night. So there is still plenty of time to watch this, but that also means a lot of uncertainty. Please stay tuned for any updates throughout the weekend. Of course, I'll have you covered on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, as we get closer to the early next week and we get ready for Florence.